welcome back to Beyond the Veil Tarot and Astrology. My name is Candice Marie. Thanks for joining me. I'll be your astrologer this week. This is going to be the astro weather for August 25th through September 1st, 2024. Happy Sunday. I'm excited to be back with you guys and talk about everything that's going on this week. And I've got some good news for you. Mercury will be going direct in the sign of Leo. So the Mercury retrograde will be ending. I think we all could use a little bit of good news in that regard. So if you guys like my content and you want to see more of it, make sure you click the bell button below. This will subscribe you to my channel. You'll be alerted as to when I have new content. We are here every Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, and Sunday, trying to make sense of what's going on in the cosmos. All right, so good news is things really begin to kind of chill out this week. So I have to tell you guys, I was quite happy to look at the transits. I feel like we can finally stop and take a breath this week and things calm down a little bit. We're going to see, obviously, Mercury going direct. We're going to see a lot of lunar transits, a Venus ingress, but for the most part, honestly, this is definitely welcomed. Thank Goddess. So making this video and looking at the transits, I felt very relieved. And I feel like we have a little slice of time where things calm down a little bit before we're getting into eclipse season in September. So eclipses are going to be kicking off. Obviously, if you have any personal placements, either in the later degrees of Pisces or the kind of mid degrees of Libra, maybe you guys are feeling the effects. We can feel eclipses up to about a month prior, but for the most part, like, enjoy this. It's a nice slice of time before that starts taking place in a couple weeks. Honestly, August was brutal. August was some of the most challenging astrology in all of 2024. So we can give ourselves a pat on the back because we made it through it. One thing I will tell you guys is that even though Mercury is going direct, okay, so the retrograde will end this week, we're going to be feeling the effects clear into mid-September. So we still have another Uranus square aspect that's going to take place in early September. We have seen how that's played out really since July with some really nervous, tension, shocking, surprising kind of communication. Travel themes, things getting kind of fried, but for the most part, I feel like we weathered the storm. So now that we are at the end of August, going into the beginning of September, I feel like communication should actually move forward now. So, possibly even in a much more confident and authentic way. So if you've been waiting to sign a contract, launch a website, if you've been waiting to have an important conversation, presentation, schedule your trip, things do get easier, but mind the shadow, and we'll talk a little bit about that today. We will see a Venus ingress this week as well, and it's going to kind of go off with a bit of a finale. So if you guys have been kind of watching, there is a whole series of planets that have gone through Gemini, that have squared Saturn and will be squaring Neptune. We now see planets that are going to be going through Virgo, that are going to be opposing Saturn and opposing Neptune. So the theme of this is when we take a step back from something and we really reevaluate it, is it good for us, right? Virgo is all about health, organization, cleanliness, productivity, physical health and habits. So we're going to start seeing that happening this week, actually, as Venus comes into an opposition with Neptune. Now, we've already seen the Saturn-Venus kind of aspect play out recently. So for a lot of you guys, that's been about taking space and reevaluating either relationships, your values, your health, maybe even your spending habits. So now we have the finale of Venus making an opposition to Neptune. We're going to talk about what that means, but be mindful that there can still be miscommunications going on in the shadow of the retrograde. Mercury is the dispositor of Venus, and we see now Venus coming into an opposition with hazy Neptune. So this can bring miscommunications regarding love, relationships, partnerships, money, spending, and some blind spots. So listen for that. But just after Venus's opposition to Neptune in a mutable sign, right? So it's about change. we are now going to see Venus move into her domicile in the sign of Libra. So this is one of the times of the year that is definitely a lot better for relationships. So this is good news for relationships, whatever we have distanced ourselves from or cleaned up or whatever grievances we've aired out. It's been a necessary part of the process before we can kind of better get into balance with other people and also with ourselves. So maybe we needed to step away from some things to let new relationships in. Maybe we needed to kind of clean up our act and our habits within our own kind of lives so we can kind of be better partners for other people. So Venus moving into Libra, I think, is good news. I feel like right off the bat, we're going to see probably some pretty significant changes happening in relationships, but also anything that's aesthetic, anything relating to beauty, to money. So if you're one of those people who's been waiting to, go and make a dramatic change to your style or your hair or anything that can be aesthetic, or maybe even making some kind of indulgent purchases, Venus going through this sign is definitely a good time to do that. Obviously, look at your chart. You're going to want to see how it's aspecting your natal planets. But right off the bat, Venus is going to come into a trine with Pluto in Aquarius. Powerful shifts revolving around our relationships, to the collective, to our friends, goals and relationships somehow shifting, evolving, and very powerful, dynamic kind of teams can be built. So this can be collaborations, it could be networks, it could be, sitting down and doing interviews with people, collaborating with other people to be able to get better kind of exposure, especially on the internet. So I think we're going to see this week some really amazing opportunities to band together and really strengthen and unify through kind of partnership and diplomacy as well. Venus in Libra is all about considering the other person's kind of perspective and trying to take a balanced, kind of strategic approach to relationships. So that's wonderful. It's a very great aspect. But speaking of Pluto, Pluto is retrograde right now, and it will be retrograding back into the sign of Capricorn. So Pluto will retrograde back to Capricorn. That means if you happen to have any cardinal placements, let's say 27, 28, 29 degrees, Aries, Cancer, Libra, and Capricorn placements, okay? This could be a sun, moon, rising, personal planet. You are still under a Pluto transit. Pluto is obviously the big bad wolf in astrology, but really what he wants to do is expose things, bring it to the surface, right? Kind of use that volcanic energy to press it up and get it from our psyche kind of in and out in the open. So we will be feeling this for the next few months, all right? This is all about backtracking, right? Retrograde is to go back, reevaluate, rework, rethink issues revolving around power, long-standing issues, right? Breaking away from heavy burdens, fears, issues, insecurities that we have with authority, our professional lives. Sometimes it's parenting things. It really depends on your chart. But since 2008, we have had Pluto in the sign of Capricorn, the cardinal earth sign that's ruled by Saturn. So it's been harder to move through some of these changes and break through the chains while Pluto has been in this particular sign. So this is the grand finale, guys. That's really what this is going to be about. I think, both Venus moving into Libra and Pluto moving into Capricorn, they really need their own separate videos. So I don't want to take away from Mercury going direct because I think it's really good news, but I will be putting together 2 separate videos on this week. So I will do a Venus through Libra. We're going to look at all the aspects that Venus is making throughout her trek, what to kind of watch for and what that means for all of the signs. So you guys will get that in real time when it's happening on Tuesday or Thursday. And I'm trying to put together a webinar for you guys actually for my channel. So usually I do webinars specifically kind of private link, and I sell those. But I feel like this is so important that I really want to give you guys the necessary tools. I want to talk to you a little bit about my experiences with my Pluto transit. And I want to give you guys some takeaways and some things to kind of walk away from this video with, so that way you can better implement change over the next few months, because once Pluto leaves Capricorn, it ain't coming back. Then it's going into Aquarius. It's going to be there for the better part of the next 20 years. And cardinal signs, they initiate something, right? And Pluto wants to kind of demolish. So it's got to confront some of these kind of skeletons in the closet, some of these power struggles, to be able to embrace this new opportunity, this shift into a new paradigm as it goes into Aquarius. And we've got big changes in 2025 and 2026. Pluto in Aquarius, Saturn and Neptune are going to be in Aries. Uranus is going to be going into Gemini. And guess what, guys? They all sextile each other, or they make aspects to each other. So this change is not going to be localized just where Pluto is in Aquarius. It's going to be aspecting everything. Now, fire and air elements are masculine. This means that we are going to see big out in the world changes revolving around communication, technology, things revolving around creativity, self-expression. So we really want to put on our rubber gloves over the next 2 or 3 months, roll up our sleeves, and really get down and dirty and clean out all of the muck with our hands, so that way we are prepared for some of these changes that are coming. So stay tuned. I'm working on those videos, and I'm very excited to be putting that video together, especially because as a cardinal rising sign, I'm over it. You know, my moon's a cardinal sign too, so I'm like, let's just be done with this already. But I hope that what I put together is helpful for you. All right, so let's get right into the week ahead. This is going to be August the 25th through September the 1st, 2024. If you're watching today, it's August 25th. It's Sunday. Happy Sunday. I hope your guys' week has been going well, and shout out to my Sunday crew. I hope you guys are hanging out somewhere comfy, drinking your tea, your coffee, hanging out and listening. I always get a kick out of reading your guys' comments. People are like, I love cleaning and listening to this, or I listen to this in the morning before my kids get up. So I'm glad that I get to hang out with you guys on this Sunday morning. We wake up this morning and the moon is in Taurus, okay? So if you guys caught the end of last week, I gave you this preview of what would be happening this morning. Essentially, when the moon is hanging out in Taurus, we want to get comfy, right? We are focusing on groundedness, on stability, resources, finances, you know, themes revolving around food, and also pleasure. So whenever the moon is in the sign of Taurus, we want to know what's going on with Venus. So Venus is now starting to approach, and we will see this week, the trine to Uranus. And that can really be promoting positive changes in our health and our habits, changes to our job, our routines, and how that can actually benefit us financially, our self-esteem, our security. I liken like the Venus trine Uranus as, oh, I didn't know that I would like that. I tried it and I didn't think I would like that cuisine or that food, or, you know, that perfume, or maybe that change in my habits, but actually it's a good change. So we're feeling that trine definitely brings spontaneity, you know, when it comes to our relationships. But Venus is moving through Virgo. So it's more like, you know, Venus in Virgo is saying, well, let's maybe reorganize the pantry in a way that is going to be a little bit more aesthetically pleasing, and we're going to be able to kind of see everything better, right, as it kind of connects with the moon and Uranus. It could also mean that, you know, we are changing something about our diets. We are getting our finances in order. We are using, you know, new systems and methods of being able to kind of better relate to Venus-related things. So it does help that there is some positive supporting aspects that's kind of going on while the moon is in the sign of Taurus. However, the moon will be approaching, right, a conjunction to Uranus. Now, I think the morning starts out kind of mellow. I feel like with the sextile to Saturn, some of us are maybe getting up this morning. We are maybe practicing a little bit of mindfulness, maybe doing some meditation, being in nature, you know, listening to some music. All great ways to be able to utilize the moon in Taurus. But we are going to start seeing that as the moon is approaching a conjunction to Uranus, Sunday night can feel like our mood is shifting. There's something that's a little destabilized. We are reacting to something differently, or there is something that happens that affects our resources or stability in some way. There can be some emotional upsets, right? And the moon conjunct Uranus is not necessarily a bad transit, but it can mean that we need to exercise a sense of emotional intelligence. We need to be a little bit more abstract in how we are looking at our, our Taurus related things. So you'll see that conjunction start happening as we go through the day. And you will also see the moon coming into a square with Mercury. Now, squares, they produce friction, right? This is like two opposing perspectives or views or two ways of doing things. And we kind of feel like we're caught between a rock and a hard place. So, just a really kind of textbook generalization is, the moon conjunct Uranus, there is some disruption in the home revolving around what's going on with food and our romantic partners, our kids, trying to put the broccoli on their plate for dinner, being like, eat your vegetables. And then there is some, definite tantrums or not kind of getting along well or communicating well because you're trying to express, hey, take this, it's good for you, it's healthy for you. And somebody says, I don't want that. Don't tell me what to do. So whenever we see the moon in hard aspect with Mercury, it means that there is some conflict between kind of keeping the peace and having things be pleasurable and joyful and what somebody thinks or what somebody has to say. So there's definitely going to be some disagreements around the dinner table. That can definitely happen with some of these aspects as we go throughout the day. Now, you'll see the square come through, and it looks like that's at 22 degrees. So as we're getting into late morning, you'll kind of see a little bit of the jumbledness of, well, I want to kind of go along with it cool, calm, and collected, just kind of hanging out, enjoying myself. But maybe you get some unexpected news, or maybe, just somebody stops by or they drop by and you didn't expect them to, come and visit. Something like that can happen that kind of messes with your plans midday. Watch for miscommunications, and at 22 degrees, there can be some sense of conflict, bossiness that can be happening. There could be some long-standing issues that you're kind of trying to address in regards to a financial matter, maybe trying to express yourself with a romantic partner, or maybe just trying to, kind of parent your kids. That can definitely be a little tense with that particular square. Now, the moon's going to keep moving. It will then come into the conjunction and the trine. So as we get into the later afternoon, we can smooth things over a little bit. Moon's going to trine Venus. It's like, okay, we worked through it. We came up with a solution. Okay, isn't this better? We made that change. We made the adjustment. And we're able to experience, more peace and harmony, and we're willing to kind of help others and kind of correct some of the things that we need to correct or kind of clean up. So if there's some tension midday, just let it go. Don't worry about dealing with it. It looks like things will probably blow over as we're kind of getting closer to the evening hours. Once again, other than that, Venus really isn't doing much, and she's not entirely thrilled being in the sign of Virgo. So she's definitely airing out some grievances. I guess that's the best way to put it. In this last week, there's been a square to Mars, so there's been some tension revolving around who am I taking, who am I taking action with in relationships? And is there a difference of opinion, right? Jupiter and Mars are close. Has there been a difference of, what does and does not work? Have we been kind of getting a little irritated with how somebody loads the dishwasher or whether or not they put something away? And has that caused some friction in relationships? Because Mars and Gemini has a tendency to be kind of like all over the place and not as grounded as some of the other Mars placements. And then Venus is kind of running around being like, you rushed through this, you didn't take care of that, you didn't fix that. So there's been some disharmony. She's also recently come out of an opposition with Saturn. So we've definitely been a little bit more critical maybe of relationships or health or coworkers or friends. So the next phase now is that Venus is going to start coming into opposition with Neptune, and that'll happen later in the week. But it's possible that you're feeling it already, where you're like, where am I doing too much? And is it self-sacrificial? And is it good for me to be super, hyper-focused on being 100% and then showing up for other people? I think for a lot of clients, it's materialized for me as people recognizing that if they're not filling their own cup, they're not really able to show up 100% for anyone, and they could be putting themselves on back burner and creating some unhealthy habits in relationships. So if you're experiencing that, this is about kind of course correcting on Sunday and being like, how can we make the necessary changes? So I feel good too, or I feel valued as well, or I feel like, you know, other people are kind of contributing and making me feel secure. It's not just me kind of giving that we see with Venus in opposition to Neptune. So Venus has not opposed yet. It has not trined yet, but that's an interesting aspect certainly taking place this week. Now, if we go into the PM hours on Sunday, we're going to have a moon shift pretty late at night, so you may not quite see it or feel it until tomorrow, but the moon will then ingress into Gemini. So late Sunday night, moon in Gemini, chatty, communicative, is learning, you know, kind of bright and bushy-eyed, and it trines Pluto. So there's this emotional shift that happens revolving around communication and the ability to come together and work alongside others and collaborate. You know, you might be getting texts and communication from friends kind of later on Sunday evening. You might be spending a little bit more time than usual on social media, absorbing some kind of news, something like that can be going on. And when the moon is in Gemini, we look at Mercury because Mercury rules Gemini. So Mercury's actually been ruling a lot of things, and that's why there has been a sense of feeling like we've been in a bit of a tizzy. Mercury is the dispositor of the sun. We've had mutual reception between Mercury and the sun, where Mercury's in a solar sign and the sun's in a mercurial sign. So they're both trying to do something where they're rearranging and making more time for the things that we love. Mercury's also been responsible for Venus. And whenever we see Mercury and Venus, or, you know, Mercury in, or Venus in a mercurial sign, we're faced with obstacles, choices, you know, decisions, two paths, you know, needing to really exercise clear communication. And Mercury's also been responsible for Jupiter and Mars. So that's why this Mercury retrograde has felt so kind of like, you know, because we're having to really examine how we communicate, how we move through our kind of daily routine. Are we just saying we're going to do something and not following up? Are we rushing through things, or are we kind of flippant about stuff? And have we been putting off the necessary conversations or changes that actually need to happen to bring us more joy? So yeah, there's a lot going on here. So all you need to know is that, you know, the moon enters Gemini late tonight. It will be there on Monday, the 26th. So we go to Monday morning and the moon is there. Nothing's really happening with Mercury yet, but 21 degrees is the degree in which Mercury will be stationing. So if you have any planets around like 20 to 22 degrees of Leo, this Mercury retrograde may feel a little bit more personal for you. It may be about really reflecting on the theme of that planet, that house. If you're a Leo rising, it's the changes you're wanting to make in terms of your goals, your appearance, your body, all that stuff. So if you guys stay tuned to the end, I'll tell you where Mercury is going direct and what it means for you. But definitely, you know, feeling Mercury hanging out, it's going to hang out at 21 degrees for a couple of days. So we're feeling the effects of that. And, you know, when planets station, when they go direct or when they go retrograde, we generally see themes revolving around that planet in a pretty big way, especially this is like in the third decan of Leo. So I feel like if I go back and I think about, I've been telling you guys, you know, since the Mercury retrograde video before Mercury retrograde, I was like, look, this is going to be about some really big changes going on with leaders and leadership. That is definitely happening this week. We have seen that kind of play out. So this is still that news that's unfolding. And you know, at 21 degrees, it's what we are learning about leadership and how on an individual level, we can really make the necessary conscious decisions by being more heart-centered and in tune with ourselves to say, okay, I want to lead by example. I want to reflect on, you know, how I can be more brave, more creative, more romantic. So Mercury being in that sign and the moon being in Gemini, you know, it's eventually going to start kind of coming into a sextile. So we're going to see some good opportunities for communication. Now, right off the bat, late last night, even into early Monday morning, the moon is still in a trine to Pluto. So this is powerful for like scheduling group meetings, making plans with your friends. Even if you don't do it on Monday, this is a good time to do it. It can also be a time where you feel like you're just a little bit more busy than usual. Monday morning is going to feature very early a moon square the sun, okay? So I could see some people being like, oh, I rushed and, sent off that email and I didn't edit it, Virgo. I was driving to work and, I got delayed, or I forgot something, or, I didn't check my schedule. I was supposed to be at this meeting an hour ago. So there's something that's a little jumbled with the moon square the sun. And this is the last quarter square. So we are now going to be, getting ready to come into what will eventually be early September, a new moon in Virgo. So if you guys haven't checked out that video, watch that, because that's already out. But this is when we're just kind of going like, okay, we got to dismantle something. This ain't working, So there's a little bit of jumbledness early in the morning. Give yourself extra time to get places. Make sure you're thoroughly reading and editing and going through things before you send it, before you confirm stuff. And definitely not a good time to be scheduling anything. Let's wait till Mercury goes direct. If you know you have to schedule a trip, or if you're waiting to sign a lease, wait until we get out of some of these squares and we have a little bit better aspect, okay? So the moon and the sun, they square, which means there's something that is kind of jumbled about how we're feeling emotionally, what's on our mind emotionally, which we generally want to talk about with the moon in Gemini. And the sun in Virgo could represent, well, it's not good timing. Can I call you back? Or I guess, can I call you back? I'm walking into work, and then not having the ability to communicate effectively, because we're really trying to focus on our habits, our job, our responsibility, organization, cleanliness. So there is something that does not really work very well. We're going to put it off. So if you know that you want to see people later in the week, or you need to get back to them, shoot them a message. Hey, I've got a lot going on right now. I do want to, I'll return, your text or your call when I'm available. Let me just wrap this up and then we'll talk. That's the best way to kind of handle it, because trying to have something right off the bat Monday morning, to me, feels a little jumbled. We will see, as the moon continues on Monday, it's going to start coming into both a trine to the south node in Libra. So we're able to do some karmic clearing, revolving around relationships and partnerships, still picking up that trine to Pluto. So that's still good for being like, look, something's changing. I want to connect with you, here's my goal. We also see the moon sextile the north node. So it's picking up the energy of action and independence and, being fierce and kind of courageous and kind of, telling somebody what's on their mind. By the time the moon is out of the square with the sun and it's still picking up a trine to the south node, I would say midday is a better time to reconnect with people, get back to people, let them know you want to make plans, what have you, when things are like a little less jumbled, okay? Outside of that, that's pretty much the only transits taking place on Monday. So I'm going to take you guys now to Tuesday, which will be the 27th. And Tuesday morning, the moon is doing some things. So the first thing we're going to see is a square to Saturn. And it's been my experience personally. I don't know, you guys tell me if you've noticed this. When the moon's gone through Gemini with Saturn and Pisces, I have found there is more delays, there's more road work, there is more weather issues, there's more car problems, there's more accidents, because Gemini wants to be on the move, right? It wants to be mobile. So with Mercury, with the moon, which is our emotional kind of selves, in a sign that wants us to communicate, move around, kind of get things done, the square to Saturn means there can be unforeseen delays, setbacks, or communications. So that tells me that first thing in the morning, once again, Tuesday is another day. Give yourself time, leave 15 minutes early for wherever you gotta go, because we may, especially in the morning, see some issues. On an emotional level, because Saturn in Pisces is more somber, it is more reserved, it is a little bit more held back, there can be this sense of emotionally doubting ourselves and not knowing whether or not we should make that call or send that email, or feeling like, it's hard to connect with somebody or talk about your feelings. Remember, Mercury's still the ruler, so even though the moon will sextile Mercury, so it's saying, well, if it's on your mind, maybe you should talk about it, maybe it's time to kind of come out with something and make this statement. There is some sense of being like, well, what if it isn't well received? Or, like maybe it's not the time yet. Mercury and, the connection to the moon, I think also is a kind of really saying, those of us who have been waiting to launch websites, podcasts, sign leases, buy cars, all that stuff, we're all kind of sitting around going like, okay, we got to get out of this square with Saturn, and we got to wait for Mercury to go direct before we can do that. Definitely a good day to kind of comb through stuff and look for stuff that's been missing. So if hey, I got to launch this website, scan through everything, make sure everything's in order, try to catch any of like the kind of mishaps or, any blind spots that you maybe didn't see before you get ready to kind of launch something. That's how I would use this energy. We still have the sun in Virgo, guys. So like there is still a sense of having some support and having some clarity. I'm not really worried about tying up loose ends under this particular transit. Now, the other thing that's going to happen then is the moon's going to come into conjunction with Jupiter. So right after we see the square to Saturn, where we're like, I'm going to think about it. I don't know if I'm going to say anything. Then the moon conjuncts Jupiter, and that's when like, not all hell breaks loose, but then you definitely hear a lot more communication. We can be a little bit more optimistic about how we're communicating. There can be a sense of more kind of like bravado with Jupiter and Mars being, in Gemini. We can feel like, okay, I'm going to go for it. And I'm feeling more confident and kind of joyful and optimistic. Finally starting to come out of the square with Saturn. So now we can see communication can also move forward a little bit more positively just because of that aspect as well. The square to Saturn is in the morning. So if it's not like holding off to have a conversation or getting delayed, it could also possibly represent oversleeping. And we oversleep and then it's like, oh my God, what time is it? Now I got to hop in my car and like speed to work, right? Remember, Mercury's still retrograde. So I would just recommend most all of the week, give yourself a little buffer time in the morning when you're coming and going from places, because there will probably be some unforeseen kind of setbacks. But Jupiter conjunct the moon is kind of saying, well, we're optimistic about, the fact that, we got set back, but it is what it is. And so just try to let things roll off your shoulder. You will then start to see the moon come into conjunction with Mars, and this will be later in the day. And this definitely is a different vibe. To me, the sextile to Mercury is saying like, can't wait to put this thing out. Can't wait to show people what we've created. Can't wait to see that person on the date. Can't wait to go and have fun and hang out this weekend. So it's positive because, the moon sextile Mercury is saying that we're anticipating something is going to be happening. But the moon conjunct Mars does make people a little bit more emotionally combative. And what will they be using in Gemini? Words. So this definitely is showing us where people can be a little bit more verbally aggressive. People can definitely be more likely to speed. Certainly the Moon-Mars conjunction and the incoming square to Neptune is kind of like, whoa, why is this person being passive aggressive? Or I didn't know they were mad at me. They just blew up on me, because Pisces can be reserved and kind of subdued and it'll kind of hold on to something. So certainly, spending the first portion of the week thinking about something and kind of marinating on it until something happens and you get triggered and then you pop off. The popping off is actually really likely to happen from the 27th into the end of the week. So go for a walk, go for a jog, do some journaling, do something where you can burn off some steam, and be mindful that there can be this feeling happening on the 27th where it's just like, I don't know, I'm kind of irritated. Air is connected to Gemini or wind or anything revolving around that. And Mars is heat. So I'm looking at this and I'm like, oh, we may see tornadoes, right? From some of these angles to both Saturn and Neptune, we may see lots of pressure going on with air, and it's going to create some issues where there can be some pretty significant storms. So be mindful of that. And then if we get into the evening, when the moon comes into conjunction with Mars, it's going to be the most intense in the evening hours. So that's when there can be some fighting words going on, especially at 25. But if you look at this, this conjunction is squaring Venus. So where things are said, or we get aggravated with our sibling, or we have a text that's kind of like nasty and passive aggressive, suddenly the moon Mars becomes the focal point of the square to Neptune, where it's like, this is where I say nothing. And Venus in Virgo is like, this is where I'm way too nice and I kind of just clean up the mess and I don't think anything of it. The moon Mars is going to make some people snap on Tuesday night, okay? And The only way out of this is to look at either trines or sextiles. And so I look at, well, the moon Mars is sextiling Chiron, where if we've been feeling hurt and we journal or we do some breath work or some tapping or we decide to get on the treadmill or walk the dog, we can burn off that steam, right? We don't have to just hold it inside. And if we look at the sextile to Mercury, where we go, okay, I'm going to do something where it's creative, you know, or I decide I'm going to go, you know, I'm going to go play my video games, or I'm going to, you know, go and create something. I look at this and I'm like, yeah, that's the solution. It's about acknowledging that there's some kind of pain, recognizing it, putting it into something. Gemini is the hands. So if you're somebody who likes to draw, like I could see some people angry coloring in their coloring book, you know, wearing down your crayons or your colored pencils. Or writing, or, you know, putting all of your thoughts into something and doing it because it's creative, and like letting maybe frustration being kind of the fuel or the motivation to kind of do something. Sure. That's the way out of it, guys, because two ends of the spectrum, you know, doing nothing, just kind of going along with it and being entirely too nice. This wants you to take some kind of action and kind of work through it. This Mercury retrograde for me, you know, it's interesting because I remember thinking to myself, yeah, the Mercury retrograde, like the entire retrograde, I'm going to work on these projects, and it didn't happen. And it was weird because I didn't push it. And I was like, well, there needs to be something that needs to shift or something that needs to happen. And I realized that I've been really waiting, I think, for Mercury to go direct to be like, okay, now I have a better idea of what my goals are. So don't beat yourself up if this Mercury retrograde, you haven't been able to kind of get all of your stuff done. The whole purpose of the retrograde from Virgo back into Leo was about finding inspiration, finding time to have fun. And maybe that has trumped some of your responsibilities or some of your work or some of your chores, right? Maybe that's happened. And maybe it has had some financial impacts, but maybe for some of us, it's made you feel better. And so you're starting to kind of reevaluate, you know, does it make sense to make some financial changes or to make some physical changes if it's going to make me feel better emotionally and create time for the things that I love? So I'm assuming that when this transit comes in on the 27th, because Mercury is getting ready to go direct, this is when it's like, okay, it's go time. I'm going to put my energy into this thing, right? So hopefully you guys can use that and kind of neutralize some of that combative energy that can be a little tricky. Then in the later hours, the moon in the later degrees of Gemini will square Venus. So that's also more challenging for relating. So we really see that 28 degrees squaring Neptune and Venus, where, you know, maybe it does mean that we'd rather read, you know, or maybe we need to take some time to, you know, sit down and do some journaling. So that'll pretty much be into the evening of the 27th. So overnight, we will see the moon in Gemini square both Neptune as well as Venus in Virgo. But for those of you guys who are like sleeping, you know, this is just going to represent kind of like a change of your mind when you're going to bed. And try not to go to bed angry. I think some people might be going to bed angry about something, or you're going like, that's it, I'm going to call them, give them a piece of my mind. Go to sleep. You know, go to sleep, sleep on it, wake up tomorrow, see if you feel differently. Likely you will feel differently because the moon is going to be in Cancer. So, all right, so then one thing you guys want to know is that you'll start feeling the opposition between Venus and Neptune as of the 27th, okay? So I kind of want to touch on that really quick. You're not going to see that happen until I think closer to the 29th. Yeah, when is that happening? No, a little bit longer. Okay, so let's go into the 28th. So we go into the 28th, which is Wednesday. And in the morning, the moon is now in Cancer. So it's moving away from Mars. It's in its domicile where it is about emotions, sensitivity. It can be about home, family, domestic matters. On Wednesday, you're going to see the moon come into a square with the north and south node and a sextile to the sun. Now, when this squares the north and south node, it's going to square at 7 degrees. This is going to be in the PM hours, okay? In the PM hours. 7s correlate to relationships, balance, diplomacy, marital partners, business partners, spouses, things like that. So when the moon squares its own nodes, and this is later in the day, we see some, I see it as like an opportunity where we have a little bit more free will, right? Fateful things, changes, change of directions, simple decisions can have pretty significant effects. So the fact that the moon is going to square at a 7 tells me that we're going to be faced with some turning points or opportunities to make some changes in relationships, point blank, because it's a 7 degree. Now, 7s correlate to Venus. So if you look at what's going on with Venus, right here, Venus at 29 degrees in opposition to Neptune. So the Venus-Neptune opposition is happening at the same time. So fateful directions when it comes to our emotions, our home and our family, which can have big, effects on our home, on the people we're partnering with, our health, all of that stuff. So this is important. The moon sextile, the sun in Virgo is saying we can get things done. We can also be more focused on our emotions and maybe where we feel a little bit better organized or kind of, on track. It's very supportive for us emotionally, right? It's supportive of where we're going, either at home or within our private lives. Now the Venus opposition to Neptune, which will be, it'll be taking place on the 28th, but you'll be feeling it as early as the 27th, whole different ball game. So realize that the moon here making that aspect on this day is, I think it's kind of important. It's basically saying, are we getting ready to step away from something, right? And this could be buying something, supporting something, being friends with someone. And it may not manifest like this for everyone, but Venus in Virgo is pretty physical, tangible. This could be that I'm quitting drinking, I'm quitting, smoking, I'm quitting this job, or this isn't a healthy habit, whatever. Venus, making this opposition, remember, Venus is in its detriment, right? So it's moving through a sign that is about health and healing and grievances, and it's debilitated when it's in Virgo. So off the bat, Venus hitting 29 means that it's the end of a phase. Venus hitting, 29 degrees of a mutable sign means that there is big change on the horizon when it comes to relationships, finances, values, and money. And when Venus makes an opposition to Neptune and Pisces, it's a pretty dynamic energy. You factor that in with the fact that once it goes into Libra, it's going to trine Pluto. So something big is changing with relationships and resources this week. When we think about Virgo, Virgo is so practical, it's logical, it's going to call a spade a spade. It's going to be like, this is what this is, and is able to really articulate how to better something, or how to kind of better organize or put something together, or how to clean something up. So we think about, then Neptune in Pisces, which is the complete polar opposition energy. If I ever saw one, Neptune, it does deal with, idealization, and it can deal with secrets, and it can deal with things that are vague or foggy, or things that are not reliable, things that just dissolve. So where Venus really wants to help heal and serve, Neptune is like, no, you can't, or I'm not available, or okay, I'll do it, and then it doesn't show up and it gets kind of ghosty. So one of the themes that you're going to see with any hard aspect between Venus and Neptune, this could be a conjunction, it could be a square, an opposition, we're going to be faced with this theme of like what we're idealizing versus reality. And Venus in Virgo is like, this is the reality of the situation. It's I love you, but we've all heard that. And then there's Neptune, which is going to be about fantasy or idealism. So, this aspect, especially with Neptune, it blurs the lines between fantasy and reality in relationships. And we might find ourselves idealizing partners or situations, and we have our rose-colored glasses on. It's like, this isn't that bad, right? And you don't see the red flags. So be mindful, you could be projecting your ideals onto others. It could lead to disappointment when reality doesn't match your expectations. It's definitely something I think that could happen. We've already been feeling a little bit of that, I think, when Venus was in opposition to Saturn just like a few weeks ago. Disillusionment, okay, that is the key term when we think about hard aspects to Neptune. Because there's a risk of becoming disillusioned when the practical, critical eye of Venus in Virgo meets this dreamy energy of Neptune and Pisces. So there can be unrealistic visions, right? Think getting catfished. Think, oh my God, the apartment looks amazing, I'll sign the lease, and then you show up and get the keys, and then you find out that the water's leaking and there's rats in the basement, and all of these things that aren't very sanitary. So this could manifest as a feeling of being let down by something, where you saw a picture and it looked really good, you idealized a certain person and then it turns out that they aren't who you think they are. It could be where something just doesn't live up to your idealized standards, okay? So keep that in the back of your mind. It is important when it comes to relationships with this aspect that we can have a tendency to overanalyze things. And that could mean being hypercritical. We could be more vocal about what we like or what we don't like. We could be more analytical about relationships. And we can find ourselves nitpicking other people, okay? This is a big thing. This happens. We're nitpicking at the flaws rather than appreciating the whole. We want to balance this out by focusing on what genuinely matters rather than getting lost in being consumed with what is not perfect. And we've all been there. We've all done that. We've all been judgmental, or we've all maybe meant well but ended up hurting somebody's feelings because we gave some constructive criticism. This is very, very strong this week. And not just this week, in general, as we're coming into what will eventually be a Pisces eclipse in 2 weeks, where we see all this polarity between what will be Virgo and also Pisces, and the fact that sometimes when we're super hypercritical of other people, it's because we're projecting that, right, onto others. That is the opposition projection. And it can really show our own insecurities and our own flaws. And like the truth is like nobody's perfect. So kind of keeping that phrase in the back of your mind this week is really helpful as you're kind of dealing with other people. And it'll not just help give yourself a little bit of a break, but also in your interactions with other people, being a little bit kinder and compassionate and recognizing that we're going to get a whole lot further with honey than we are with vinegar. All right, so like I said, overanalyzing things, being overly critical, nitpicking, but also I think of the themes with Virgo and Pisces of service versus sacrifice. And it can be hard to differentiate the two when you see so many planets in both of these signs. There is definitely a tendency with Venus in opposition to Neptune, a tendency to either serve or sacrifice for love. And yes, it can be noble, right? Sure, in some cases, but it can also be leading to neglecting your own needs. And it's really important this week to be cautious not to lose yourself in trying to perfect or save other people. And I think that's a huge theme that I see with Venus in opposition to Neptune, but you know, you factor that into the fact that this is all squaring Jupiter and Mars, and there's definitely a lot of energy where people are like, you have so much potential, you know, it could be so much better, I can help you do this. And like somebody may take that the wrong way. You may not have time to invest that kind of energy into a relationship, a job, a person, whatever. And recognizing when it's just like, okay, I want to help people who want to help themselves. There's nothing wrong with helping and serving people, but people who don't want to do the work, right? We've all heard the phrase, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. That's how you guys are going to feel this week. Horses, Jupiter, water, Pisces. So, you know, there can be the sense of, come on, you could do it. Let me help you. Just do this. And then other people, they'll flop, right? And sometimes the pressure of the square can actually incentivize people to be like, no, I'm going to stick to it this time. So it's not all negative, but, you know, it's very common with Venus, Neptune, hard aspects that we see, you know, the woman that's trying to help, you know, the partner get sober, or the man who wants the damsel in distress, or the guy who doesn't see all of the red flags in the relationship. Super, super common with some of these aspects. So it's important to recognize that, you know, you need to be cautious not to lose yourself in trying to perfect something or save other people. Now, in regards to money, because Venus rules finances, remember it's connected to Uranus as well, where it has been in a trine. So there's definitely been a sense of maybe for some of us cleaning up our spending habits, cleaning up our diet. Maybe we have been making some big sweeping changes when it comes to our value system. And that's been good actually with Venus in the trine. We've made these adjustments. But in making these adjustments and changing something about ourselves, there is this stark notice of like contrast with other people. And other people could be like, you're so consumed with doing this thing, I feel like I'm losing you, or why aren't you, making time for me, or, why is it you won't stay with me, and you're off bettering yourself. And when the dynamic shifts, when you're in a relationship that maybe wasn't in balance to begin with, and you start prioritizing yourself, and other people then with that Neptune opposition can play the victim, and they can go, why are you doing this to me? It can be a really sticky situation to kind of be in. So just, that's with money and relationships. But spending habits in particular, I have found that this opposition encourages spending on things that promise beauty, promise luxury. Maybe they, promise some kind of escape. But with a very critical eye, Venus in Virgo, you might later regret these purchases and they may be impractical or not worth the costs, right? So beware of deceptive offers. There can be financial or business propositions that sound too good to be true with the opposition. Neptune can definitely bring deception, especially in areas revolving around money, art, and beauty. You see this picture of something on eBay, this beautiful thing you want to invest in, and you're like, yes, I've always wanted it. And you get it, and then you realize it's a fake, it's not real, or it's busted, it's falling apart. It didn't look as good as the photo. There's going to be a lot of catfishing going on with this aspect. And when it happens at 29 degrees, not only is it critical, but it's also reverberating off of Jupiter and Mars, where we quickly jump into a relationship and then realize, whoa, this person's got some issues. Or we quickly decide to take that job and then we realize, wow, I'm not too crazy about this position. We may not be looking before we leap. And obviously this is at 29, which correlates to female leadership. It correlates to drama in relationships, to romance, to maybe something revolving around celebrities. Fives also deal with bars. So beer goggles can definitely be a thing this week. You go out, you have a couple drinks and, you think somebody is a certain way or behaves a certain way or looks a certain way. And then you realize, oh, maybe that's not who I thought it was. That definitely can happen with some of these aspects. Also be mindful that, there is going to be tendencies that are going to be coming up this week that really highlight escapism. So, Neptune can be as simple as, wanting to avoid the situation out of sight, out of mind, not talking about it, not thinking about it, just acting like it doesn't exist. But it could also be indulging in alcohol. It could be indulging in secret kind of habits. It can be about drugs. It can be about mental health related issues. So certainly it's really important to be mindful that, Neptune's influence this week, it does push us towards escapism through substances or overindulgence or even fantasy. So with Venus making that opposition, we could be more critical of, well, why are you drinking so much? Or why are you oversleeping? Or, whatever. And it could lead to a cycle of indulgence followed by guilt or health issues, where maybe you were hitting your stride and you were like, I was being so good and then I fell off on Saturday night, and then you're feeling bad about it or somebody's giving you a hard time about it. That can kind of come up. Practice mindfulness just in general with health, especially because Venus does have this connection to habits when it's in Virgo, and what isn't is not good for us. And I really feel like, holistic health practices, but not getting totally obsessed or getting lost in the quest for perfection, right? Or unrealistic health regimens. Balance is key when we see opposition. So we can't swing from one side to the other. Virgo can be so focused on, control and making something perfect. And Pisces could care less sometimes. So we might feel that the pendulum is kind of swinging with kind of going back and forth with some of these aspects. Virgo is the herbalist. They are the naturalist, right? They are the homeopathic kind of teacher. They are the, kind of Eastern medicine practitioners. We may find that there are strange things going on, or we're dealing with psychological issues or addiction issues. And we can find some of the solutions with the trines to Uranus through grounding techniques, through changes in food, working with crystals, working with herbs, Bach essences, flowers. I have been using all of these things throughout these transits, and this week hasn't even happened yet. So I'm kind of excited to see how this plays out, because I feel like there can be some really great solutions that can come from some of these things. So we're not just kind of falling into this feeling sometimes where we feel kind of helpless with planets in Pisces. Obviously, Neptune in Pisces at 29 degrees is just Looney Tunes in its own right, because there's definitely a lot of things that are kind of dissolving, but a lot of this is about kind of pulling away all of the secrecy surrounding around certain health issues or mental health issues, and kind of gaining clarity about what really is going to help us get back onto the road to having better health. We do see with Venus in opposition to Neptune, there can be this sense of, okay, is this an artistic vision? Is this something that really could be beautiful or whimsical? And if so, is it practical? Right? And so there can be some conflict with that. I do think Venus opposed Neptune can soften us. It can make us more open to creativity and That's beautiful, but there can also be a struggle between creating something perfect, right? Venus in Virgo, and letting go and kind of going with the flow of inspiration. Art is not perfect. And I think that's just a simple way to put it. Art is not perfect. And anybody who is like a sculptor, a painter, a creator, you guys know that sometimes it can be difficult to know when to go, okay, it's complete. I'm going to let it go now. I'm going to step away from the canvas, because if I stay with it, I'm going to keep adding to it, and then it'll never, ever kind of reach completion. So it can be about finding that moment this week that's like, okay, I've done everything I can do with this. I'm just going to let it be. It's beautiful the way that it is, flaws and all, or maybe there are some things that I'm critical of, but I'm just going to kind of step away from the vehicle. And there can be tension and feeling like you need to complete certain creative projects as well. You can feel that with relationships also, some tension in relationships, and whether or not, do I keep texting this person back, or do I just kind of fall back and see what they do? And some people could be kind of rearranging their strategy and how they're navigating relationships. I see critique and creativity that definitely happens. Be mindful not to be overly critiquing your creative output or that of other people, because this whole period is about merging our practical skills with spiritual or something that's more abstract or creative. And I think that, for a lot of us, it's striking that balance. And I just can't not look at, the Jupiter-Mars stuff. And it's about, okay, I can take some constructive criticism, but when somebody is telling me it's just downright wrong, or I'm doing this, or I'm doing that, some people are going to kind of get in their own heads, and then they're just going to stop. And remember that while all of this is going on, we're also getting ready to see Mercury going direct. So Mercury will be going direct, actually. It looks like on the 28th. Let's see, when does that happen? Yeah, so it'll go direct in the evening on the 28th. So Wednesday night, Mercury's direct. Moon square the nodes. Venus opposed Neptune. Ooh, we're completing something, that's for sure. For some of us, it's something creative. For some of us, it's relationships. It really depends. So that's how it finishes off the day. Mercury goes direct at 21 degrees, which is a Sagittarius degree, which I think is about, well, what did we learn about getting in touch with our heart space? Or what did we learn about taking time to, focus on our hobbies, or maybe hanging out with our kids, or, making time for dating, or creating for the sake of creating. Certainly Mercury square Uranus for a lot of people, I think, has been about like, well, if we live in a culture where everything that you produce or everything that you create has to equate to something that makes money, it disincentivizes a lot of people to even get started, because they're like, well, why would I invest into that? It's not going to make any money, And I think that for a lot of people, that's really what the square has been about. Or how can I find new creative ways to make money, whether that's investing or side hustles, hobbies, what have you. Learning a new skill has certainly been really helpful, or a new language, or, taking up something new locally to just, kind of get your mind off of some of the things that are going on out in the world. But Mercury going direct at 21 is going to be about global matters as well. So let's see what the Sabian symbol has to say about Leo 22, because we always round up, so it's going to be 21 degrees and change. All right, so Sabian symbol, a carrier pigeon. The keyword is enlightenment. The theme is message received. The symbol speaks to communication and learning what needs to be known in order to handle any new situation or crisis. The image of a carrier pigeon symbolizes the process of sending and receiving information. The emphasis is on the symbol and the developments of intuition, or highly refined sensitivity to those things that ordinarily might escape a notice or be missed. On a practical level, the symbol is operational when answers magically appear, precisely at the moment that they are needed, or the individual finds himself at the right time at the right place to discover just what he's been looking for. In a broader sense, the image might epitomize telepathy. It also alludes to karma. At its highest, it represents psychic sensitivity or highly developed mental focus and a remarkable ability to understand the higher meaning of things and events. Watch for gossip and the inability to sense when to keep quiet. The accent is on communication. Important news and messages you've been waiting for may arrive today. It's a good news for the Mercury going direct. Greatest advantage lies in keeping your eyes and ears open. Pay attention and be sensitive to the subtleties of expression and nonverbal cues. Guard against temptation of gossip or to breach confidentiality, and know when to keep quiet. Stepping stones are messages, carrier, liaison, communications, announcement, news, gossips, rumor, information, learning, understanding, intuition, telepathy, mental focus, and messages. I like it. So, you know, we've got one more square that's going to happen. So the last square between Uranus and Mercury will be on the 6th of September. You guys might want to write this down. So on the 6th of September, we will see the same square that took place the third week of July. It happened earlier in August. And that's what's brought lots of technological glitches and breakdowns. And I got to tell you guys, I still feel like that may continue to happen. Okay, traveling issues revolving around technology, especially when a planet goes direct, we can see some stuff happen. Technically, Mercury's not really aspected, so you may see something when the moon starts coming into conjunction with Mercury, or as the moon goes through some of the fixed signs and it squares, we will see probably some static that's going to be happening at some point in September. So, you know, for some of you guys, you may be deciding to wait until after the second square before you do, you know, make any commitments, because that does kind of throw a monkey wrench into things, or there can be a curveball, and maybe you're still working something out, right? This also means, because Leo is the markets, there's still going to be a little bit of like buck wild stuff going on at the beginning of September. So just be mindful of that. So that's September 6th. We'll see the square happening at 27 degrees. We will see Mercury return to the sign of Virgo, and this is where it's in its domicile. So it is powerful when it's in Virgo because it's kind of playing with home field advantage. So that'll be on September 9th. So some of you guys may be saying, well, let me wait until Mercury gets into Virgo. Just a heads up, when Mercury is in Virgo, it's going to quincunx Pluto. So may not be the best aspect to release something, but nevertheless, you know, if you guys just want to wait until the Mercury retrograde's over and do your thing, that's fine. Then we're going to see after the 9th, when it returns to Virgo, Mercury will leave the shadow period. That means it will leave that 3-4 degrees of Virgo where it retrograded. Remember when it retrograded conjunct Venus? Now we're going to see then on the 12th that Mercury will leave the shadow. So the shadow period's over on the 12th, but 5 days later, we have an eclipse in Pisces. So, long story short, choose your own adventure. Me personally, I am just waiting for Mercury to go direct because I feel like I can get some stuff done once that has happened. And I already kind of have a game plan, and probably will be kind of unloading some of the stuff I'm working on closer to either the end of the month or the beginning of September, and even more into the month. So that's my hot take on it. In general, Mercury going direct means, especially in Leo, that we have more confidence in communication. And it can also mean that we speak with more of a sense of authority, we're more creative, maybe we're more authentic. And it's not really about being loud and proud, it's more about being clear and being engaging. Because when Mercury's retrograde, we're reflecting on, okay, well, how do I want to communicate? What do I think? And, you know, what do I want to do? And then when it's direct, it's like, okay, that impacts the way that we kind of connect with people outside of ourselves. So we've been reflecting on a lot of that stuff. Great for creative projects, so you can start pushing forward with your creative projects where you need to show your talent, your personal flair, you're working on your own business, maybe you're you know, better communicating with romantic partners. I definitely feel like it's really great for leadership because it can really help us now really step up to the plate and kind of like take on the roles that we need with more charisma, and not just more competence, but more energy because it's direct in a fire sign. And, you know, I think that this is also really great for self-expression. So whether that's art, speech, what have you, we're really going to be able to let more of our personality and our creative talents kind of shine. So I welcome the shift. I'm glad that Mercury retrograde is going to be over. I think it's going to be a nice change. And I think all of us are definitely, after this retrograde, we're a little bit more humbled. I feel like there's been more openness to feedback. I feel like we have been really reflecting on our communication style and our expression and wanting to kind of resonate with more authenticity rather than just seeking attention, because that can be the lower octave that we can kind of see of planets when they go through Leo, right? All right, so that's Mercury going direct. This is now going to take us into the 29th, which is going to be Thursday. All right. And Thursday morning, moon hanging out in Cancer. Moon is going to make a trine to Saturn. So the more that we're in tune with our emotions, we're able to create better boundaries, we're able to reflect on our intuition. That's great. That's all good. I like that. We're also going to see Venus enter into Libra. All right, so Venus will go into Libra. So for my Taurus and my Libra risings, your chart ruler is on the move. So that means that it's moving into a new area. And good news for Libra placements, Sun, Moon, Rising, really good for you guys for relationships, health, and everything revolving around beauty. So that's good. And also Mercury going direct is good for my Geminis, my Virgos, my Leos. So that's going to be good for you guys as well. Now, Venus moving into Libra, totally different vibe. This is where we're able to really kind of say, okay, let's come together, let's work together. And that could be great for clients, for your marketplace, if you sell something, products or services. It's good for romantic relationships. It is an air sign, so it's about socializing, you know, kind of connecting with people. And off the bat, Venus is going to make a trine to Pluto. So how interesting that Venus, you know, hit 29, came out of a trine with Uranus where there were some changes. It opposed, you know, Saturn and said, this isn't working. Then it opposed Neptune and said, I'm going to let this go. And now moves into Libra and trines Pluto. It's almost like if we're willing to step away from something earlier in the week, we have so much more to gain, right? So much more power through unification, so much more opportunity if we work together to achieve our goals. So I like that. I like that that's the first aspect that Venus makes, to be honest with you. And even though Venus is making some good aspects, you know, we do see the moon that is going to start rubbing up against Chiron in a square and start sextiling Uranus. So, you know, August 29th, good day, especially people who are like, I want big transformations when it comes to money, beauty, friendships, relationships. And this could be very powerful for joining forces with other people, and could very easily generate some kind of connection or duos or teams that could really create shockwaves. Because when you think about it, Venus is the dispositor for Uranus, rules Taurus. Right? So it's still in a trine by 3 degrees. So Venus is responsible for Uranus. Well, Venus is trining Pluto, which is ruled by Uranus, right? Aquarius. So it's saying, yeah, we're going to send shockwaves and major physical, financial changes, self-esteem changes. You know, you might dump one client or one person or one situation earlier in the week, and then that leads to some profound change. And then it's people being like, well, I want to hang out with you, you know, or I want to partner with you. Okay, so you ended your, you know, contract with this company. Come join our group. Or, oh, you're single. Okay, great. Let me take you out. You know, you're going to see with Venus, Pluto, there's endings and there's beginnings, but this is more fortuitous. It is a Jupiter kind of energy when you see trines. So this is big, powerful breakthroughs in relationships and being able to achieve our goals. I think that's a big one with Pluto and Aquarius, especially moving forward into the future. Now, we're going to see the moon, like I said, it'll come into a quincunx, not a quincunx, excuse me, a square. Well, no, no, it's not a quincunx anything. I take that back. So it's going to come into a square, and it's also, oh, that was the quincunx that I was looking at. Okay, so the sun will kind of quincunx the north node a little bit. So that means that, you know, individually we're like, something's got to change. And then the moon, the moon will start coming into a square with Chiron in the evening hours. So it looks like it's pretty late, so we might get lucky and miss it. But this is like, maybe we were thinking or reminiscing on the past too much, or maybe some change going on for us emotionally or with our home that's making us feel like, ugh, why is this falling on me? I think that the sun quincunx the north node is the same thing. It's like on an individual level, it's like, man, you know, I'm tired of constantly working through the lessons, you know, and I've heard a lot of people say that in the comments section, and it's like, when is it going to end, you know, and this, especially because Aries is cardinal fire, so it wants to initiate something, and Virgo is mutable earth, where it's like, no, in order to have the, you know, in order to really get solid, we need to make the necessary changes. So this is quite literal when it comes to our health and our habits. All right, so the moon's going to square Chiron, so there's some ouchies late at night, but most of us may kind of get a pass and not feel it. And then we're going to wake up in the morning on the 30th, which is going to be Friday. Actually, you know what? Let me go back for a second. Hold on. I want to talk to you a little bit more about Venus in Libra. I have a couple notes here. Okay, so Venus, love, beauty, harmony, right? So it's ingress into Libra. I think it's going to have positive effects. So the good thing is that this is going to enhance diplomacy. So if you're looking like wanting to have a sit down with a romantic partner, if you're wanting to give a proposal to a client, if you're wanting to, you know, plan some kind of social gathering, this is a good transit for it, especially the trines to Pluto. So I think we can negotiate, we can mediate, and we can find common ground. And that's the power, I think, of Libra and the ability to transform the collective with the trine to Pluto. You're going to see so much of this theme this week. That's like, let's not be divisive. Let's work together. How can we be a team? And that's what I like about some of the transits that are going on this week, that some people are going to realize it's more important to do that rather than to be separate. You will also see that there is more opportunity for aesthetic appreciation. So art, beauty, music, fashion, design. You know, if you want to engage in appreciating art, going to a fashion show, going to a art gallery, if you're wanting to do anything creative in any fashion, it's going to be, I think, going well throughout the transit just in general. More harmony in relationships. There, I think, is much more of an inclination to want to partner or want to be with other people. So we can find that people are seeking relationships. They're more open. People are more willing to cooperate. And this could also lead to a deepening of relationships with this transit as well, especially with the trines to Pluto. It's got a lot of depth. Like, okay, how are we evolving together rather than just separating? Kind of working through some of the challenges. It creates more of a peaceful atmosphere as well. Okay, so it can promote peace. It can be about reducing conflict and encouraging compromise. And Libra is a sign that, you know, it obviously, like, you know, what is it they say? Steel hand velvet glove, right? Is that what they say? Where, you know, it's a masculine sign, so it is going to be kind of judge and jury sometimes, but Libra is about fairness and balance and equality in relationships, but that's because it does want peace, it does want harmony, it does want diplomacy. So there can be a sense of, you know, I think really seeking harmony rather than confrontation and trying to build bridges rather than kind of burning them down. Great for social grace. I feel like it's great for, you know, interacting with other people. People might be more charming, more polite, more considerate, especially in some social gatherings and events. So for all of us, you know, we may be experiencing more romantic opportunities. I think we're going to have more opportunity to appreciate the beauty and, you know, the beautiful things in our lives in this next couple of weeks. More socializing, parties, gatherings, and get-togethers. This can be also harmony for legal and financial matters, because Venus does affect legal matters, contracts, negotiations. It can make all of that a little bit more kind of smoother. And I also feel like this is really great on a personal level. There's just a stronger desire for peace. And I would say, because Libra is an air sign, it's about being able to speak about that. It's about being able to create that. And where we take that kind of action in our own lives, you know, it can have a ripple effect and definitely impact the masses. So we'll be talking about that in a separate video this week. All right, so let's go to the 30th, which is Friday in the morning. And the moon is going to be in the last moments of Cancer here. And it trines Neptune. So it's sensitive, reflective, soft, dreamy. There is a sense of being more in touch or in tune with our emotions, our intuition. It can make us feel a little sleepy. And the moon's also in a sextile to Uranus. So I kind of feel like we're just kind of bobbing along in the morning. You know, we may be kind of taking our time, kind of going at a pace where we feel like emotionally is, you know, kind of a little bit more relaxed. And then we're going to notice a pretty significant mood change midday. We will see the moon then move into Leo, where things get a little spicy. So this will be in the early afternoon. And we're looking at the sun when the moon is in Leo. The sun's not really doing anything. It's ironically not making much of any aspect. Probably the closest thing is the quincunx to the North Node, where it's more of that, okay, hard work, dedication, you know, keep at it. And it can be putting more of an emphasis on our work, our habits, our routines. And the moon immediately comes into an opposition with Pluto. All right, so this feels a little emotionally destabilizing, but the way out of this is look at what's happening with the sextile to Venus. It's like, yes, there's more drama that kicks up when the moon goes into Leo. You know, it doesn't even need to oppose Pluto. It's just, we just notice more of that boastfulness and that roar. But with the moon sextile Venus, it's like we can be more romantic. We can be more, you know, focused on our expression and creativity and, you know, the more kind of dramatic things happening in partnerships and relationships. Leo is the self. Aquarius is others. So I could see some people on Friday night being like, I'm not hanging out with my friends, I'm hanging out with my partner. You know, I'm choosing not to do that. I'm going to be spending time with my romantic other or my spouse or my kids or whatever. So there is a positive to it, but we do get a little emotionally checked with Pluto in opposition. There is something outside of ourselves that seems intense or some situation is changing. But if you lean into the sextile with Venus and the trine to the North Node, Friday is like, you're going to do whatever's going to make you happy. You're going to do whatever is going to feel like the most fun, the most entertaining, the most social. And like, yeah, for some people, they're going to be like, why aren't you coming? Or, you know, why do you want to stay home and do that? Or whatever, you know, there's going to definitely be a little bit of having to kind of defend what choices you're making or what you're doing socially. That will definitely kind of come up, especially Friday as you're kind of getting into the evening. Now in the PM hours on Friday, the moon will start coming into a trine with the North Node. So that's kind of like, yeah, I'm doing things my way, you know, whatever I feel like is best for me, even if that's just hanging out and, you know, playing games with my kids, or if that's staying home and wanting to paint or create. You know, now Mercury is direct. So there is definitely a sense of being more focused and I think involved in the things that make you feel the happiest. That's kind of my takeaway. And then we're going to see on, okay, so the night will go on. This is on Friday. So this is going to take us into Saturday. Saturday's pretty chill. There's not really too much going on. So Saturday morning, the moon is still in Leo. And we are going to see the moon pretty much, it's coming into a dark moon phase. The one thing I will say is that as the moon is going through Leo, we are going to see it get banged up a little bit on Sunday. But Saturday is a pretty easygoing day, trine to the North Node still. Yes, we get a little crabby as we're coming into the dark moon phase. This is when the moon moves through the sign just prior to, in this case, Virgo. So it'll be a new moon in Virgo on September 2nd. So Saturday morning is like, do something fun, you know, do something fun, do something entertaining. Try to paint, dance, create, you know, be romantic, go on a date, play games, you know, do these types of things because you still have a sextile to Venus and you have a slight trine to the North Node. As the day goes on, you're not really going to see anything else happen. The moon's not really making any aspects to much of anything. So that's all day on Saturday. I mean, like literally, guys, Saturday, you have a free day. Nothing. The only thing you're going to see, and this will be at the end of the day, is that the moon will start coming into a quincunx with Saturn. And I look at that as like, oh, well, I don't have to drink to have fun, right? Or I don't have to isolate. I can go out and be in the sun or like whatever. There is this sense of finally breaking down some of the walls where we have felt limited or blocked. Remember, Saturn has been a part of the retrograde, even though it wasn't exact. Mercury by sign was quincunx Saturn, and it also quincunxed Neptune as well. And this could be where we become so used to just isolating or not doing anything that we kind of lost sight of like what it meant to go out and just have a good time, to live life. So maybe you're so committed to that on Saturday that you're like, I'm gonna do what I want. Saturday's awesome day. I mean, there's no real aspects going on with the moon, granted, but this is like a free day. So you don't have any real astrological weather that's kind of attacking you that day. Make the most of it. All right, so then this is going to take us to the 1st of September. All right, so that's going to be Sunday. And when you wake up on Sunday, the moon's doing some things. First of all, moon is conjunct Mercury, and Mercury is now direct. So those of you guys who are like, I've been waiting to launch my blog or my podcast or my business or like whatever, this might be the day where you're like, okay, I'm getting ready. Granted, this is right before a new moon, so I'm not telling you to do it now. I'm saying that this is when it looks like you're preparing to kind of get it in order. So you might do it actually after the 2nd. But Moon conjunct Mercury says, I got to communicate, right? I got to tell you exactly what's on my mind. When it's in a fire sign, it's this burning need to be loud, proud, and kind of like out there. So it's very bold. And this is also, connected to the sun. Sun is in a mercurial sign. Mercury is in a solar sign. I think for a lot of people, this is when they're going to be like, yeah, I am changing jobs, or I have made a big shift in my schedule, or I have made more time for this thing. So, great communication in the morning with the Mercury Moon conjunction. Now, when I look at the sun's not really doing anything. It is now coming out of the in conjunct with the North Node, where I feel like this has been a lot of people realizing, if I need to make a change, nobody's going to do it but me. And it's about kind of getting into a sync or getting into a routine so I can make time for the things that I need to make time for. But that's it. You have a small window of communication, especially because the moon is sextile Jupiter in Gemini. It's at a 19, communicating with partners. So I like Sunday morning for like sitting down, reading to your kids, sending somebody a thank you note, maybe planning some travel, sitting down and writing a story or doing some creative kind of writing of some kind, something like that. And the moon's going to keep moving through Leo, so it'll make the conjunction early in the morning. So pay attention to the conversations you're having Sunday morning. Pay attention to the emails, the statements, the news that's coming out in the world. That could all be really significant. And then the moon is going to pass Mercury. And then we're going to see the moon come into a square with Uranus, which will be in the PM hours. So this is going to be around dinner time on Sunday. Moon square Uranus is, we are collectively responding in a very Leo way. So there's drama stuff going on, revolving around something that's happening with the markets or banks or finances, or, oh, there was a volcano, there was an earthquake, there's this, there's that, And keep in mind, with Mercury coming into conjunction with the moon, it's at 22, it's stuff that's about government leadership and the rocks and rattles and rolls that this is going to have on all of us collectively, or some of the financial contributions that come from that, or maybe it could be some shocking news about data and information revolving around the stock market. I know it's a Sunday, but cryptocurrency is Uranus. And I feel like, I feel a little vindicated, because I think about like a video that I made like 2 or 3 weeks ago. And I was talking, probably longer than that, I was talking about the job numbers. And this is way before any of the job number stuff came out. I mean, this is probably longer than that, like a month or so ago. And I remember being like, man, when the Mercury retrograde happens and we start seeing planets that go from Virgo, which is jobs, and it retrogrades into Leo and it squares Uranus, there's going to be shocks and surprises. And we're going to realize that the numbers we've been getting about the job reports are bullshit. We would find out that some of the inflated numbers revolving around what's going on with employment and unemployment, or things revolving around the economy and things involving purchasing power and price of goods. It's all coming out. It has come out. It turns out there was like, I think, don't quote me on this, but I want to say it was like around 800,000 jobs that were announced that were created, right? And this isn't me politicking. This happened. Come to find out, they were not created. So that would make it negative. And then it was reported by the Bureau of Jobs, I think, or it was some, statistics. And so it's like crazy to me that these things were being reported right around the time the retrograde happened. I got a lot of, I think it was on Twitter. I think it was Twitter, but it was also on YouTube, where people were like, how can you say that? This, that, and the other. I'm like, watch. Especially because Gemini, Jupiter and Gemini was always about higher unemployment rates. So we saw the square between these two signs. Anyway, not gloating, just saying that I was like, this is going to happen. And so that's part of the Mercury retrograde in Leo, where there's this reflection on leadership and, whether or not they have said things that they're having to backtrack. And that was being found by data, Virgo. And now the squares to Uranus is like, holy cow, what does this actually mean for the state of the economy? And everybody who's afraid to use the R word, when in reality it's already happening. We've been seeing this for some time. I don't think anybody's calling it a recession because, well, we're in the middle of an election right now. So you know, there's a lot of stuff that is still going to be revealed with the eclipse next month, and it's going to be things that people were not aware of, and it may be more, I think, talk about some of these things. Anyway, so maybe there's going to be more information being revealed about some of this stuff. I don't know. We will see then in the PM hours, the moon is going to come out of the square with Uranus, which, by the way, is at a Gemini degree. So shocking, surprising news, difference of opinions about stuff and leadership and Sunday night. And then we will see the moon sextile Mars. So it's definitely triggering, you know, the need to communicate, share, even if people don't agree. The moon will quincunx Neptune, which is where we saw the Mercury retrograde. And probably on Sunday by then, you know, Mercury Direct and the Mercury moon, you're like, whatever I've been kind of holding back on working on or saying or doing, you know, now I feel like I can move forward. You'll feel something shift. And then we will see very early in the morning, this will be the 2nd. So this will be next Monday. The moon goes into Virgo, and then we will be having the new moon on the 2nd. So, you know, Sunday, I feel like with that dark moon and the moon Mercury, it's great for figuring out what you want. There still is a little bit of kind of contrast and conflict with this square to Uranus, but I would really recommend for a lot of people, either wait until after the new moon in Virgo to like launch your stuff. Obviously, depending on your own personal astrology, and like election astrology is very specific, but that, or wait until we get at least Mercury back into Virgo, because there's going to be a little bit more strength when we have Mercury at its domicile, especially if it's going to be stuff that's job related or health related or all that stuff. And last but certainly not the least, okay, there's 2 other energies that are setting up now. Now you're going to see this at the beginning of next month, but I have to bring it up now. Mars is coming into a square with Neptune. We're going to tackle that next week. Mars represents the North Node, so it's about passion, direction, you know, energy. It's our drive. It's what we do independently. And Mars will now square Neptune, and it's an opening square. So this means that now we're starting to kind of feel, oh, you know, energy levels waver. You know, Gemini is mental, so it's what we're thinking, what we're saying, and then it's like, wait a second, is that true? Is that real? I've been saying this thing. Am I wrong? You know, is there a lot of back and forth about fact and fiction? It's also very much connected to Jupiter, because Jupiter rules Pisces traditionally. So there's a lot of people jumping to conclusions and then having to reel it back, or saying some things that sound really good and then realizing that, you know, it's an emperor has no clothes situation. People are just saying things and there's no real substance behind it. Mars square Neptune, drunk driving, false representation of information, loss of direction, you know, feeling mentally overwhelmed and overstimulated, lies, deceit, miscommunication, right? Remember, Mercury is still squaring. And I think this is a big part of it, is that when Mars starts squaring Neptune, we realize some of the information that's been put out there is not correct. And there's been campaigns and other things that have been intentionally misleading. The Mercury square Uranus is going to be extra potent in September when people realize, oh my God, that's not what I thought it was. And I think a lot of it is fluff revolving around, no, the markets are going to get better. Things are going to be fine. Everything's going to be good. People are going to realize, what? So be mindful that there is this sense of like your compass is kind of spinning. You're going to start feeling that on Sunday, and you're feeling like directionless. Ironically, when I have these squares, my GPS just gets me hopelessly and gloriously lost. So I've learned to be kind of prepared and expecting that. And Pluto is back in Capricorn. Okay, 29 degrees. So what's going to happen here? Mars quincunx Pluto. Action, hostility, you know, some kind of war, some kind of energy involving air, information, in direct conflict, or I guess I should say indirect conflict. It's not direct because it's quincunx with Pluto. And guys, Pluto will be retrograde, and it will be in the sign of Capricorn until November 19th. So September 2nd until November 19th, we've got just shy of about 2 months of this Pluto energy. It will stay at 29 degrees the entire time when it's retrograde and when it's direct. What can I say about this? I mean, Pluto at 29 degrees in Capricorn, I mean, it's at an anaretic degree. So that means that it's got this now or never, we got to do it. It's the end of a cycle. It's this push, and it does have this Saturn energy to that. You factor that in with Capricorn, which is a Saturn ruled, you know, energy. I think for the masses, this is the grand finale. This is the transformation of power and structure. You know, Pluto has always been about transformation within the structures of power and authority and tradition. At 29 degrees, you know, it reaches this kind of like culmination point where essentially, you know, critical things are going to start changing. Old systems are either going to be transformed or they're going to collapse under their own weight. This could manifest as significant changes in government, financial systems, corporate structures. Remember, Pluto entered in 2008 when we had the 2008 collapse, right? So a lot of the finale is going to be like, well, what of that was mismanaged and was it fixed? Or, you know, some economists and some financial people, they, you know, believe that actually things have been quite screwed up since that time and that things have not been totally fixed and it's been kind of putting a bandage on a broken arm. Anyway, but I think that this is essentially the end of an era. And symbolically, this is really marking, you know, the end of a cycle. For society, it might mean the final stages of dealing with issues like economic disparity, governance, societal norms that no longer serve the collective good. And there is this sense of urgency at 29 degrees where we're being asked to, you know, really address these problems before we shift into new paradigms when eventually Pluto goes into Aquarius later in the year. Now, you might be like, that's great, but what does it mean for me? Well, essentially, Saturn rules Capricorn, right? And Saturn is karma. So having Pluto there is meaning it's destruction of things for karmic reasons and karmic purposes. Saturn is the dispositor. It is hanging out in Pisces at 16 degrees and it's retrograde. So it's saying it's already breaking down and dissolving things behind the scenes. We don't quite see it yet. A lot of this may be starting to be more obvious as we get into 2025 and 2026. I think, at least when Saturn and Neptune are in Aries, it's going to be in our faces. But individually, you know, in our own charts, you got to look at where Capricorn is in your chart. Having Pluto there, it feels like you're reaching a personal deadline. That's basically what it feels like. And it's a time where you're being pushed to confront and resolve some deep-seated issues revolving around power, conflict, control, and transformation in that house. Okay, so this could involve career, family, personal identity, finances. It really depends on which house. That is where you're like, this is critical. I got to deal with this. Just sidebar, go back to July 21st. We had a full moon here at 29 degrees. And I remember saying to you guys, look, you're having this full moon. There's going to be this oh shit moment. And you're going to be like, this is happening in the world, but this is what's falling apart in my life. And that was the awareness, the peak awareness of, oh, this monster that I thought I got rid of, turns out I opened the closet door or I looked under the bed and it's still there. So now we're dealing with the monster basically for the next 2 months. And it's a good thing because we're going to kind of clear this out. But it does mean that now we are being really pushed to confront these issues. And, you know, I think it's time to finally kind of face the music. Yes, there is intensity. Yes, there is urgency with 29 degrees. And in my opinion, Pluto in Capricorn is so slow. It takes forever. It feels like you're like hiking up this hill. And, you know, I think that it's kind of do or die time. And in our lives, we're going to feel compelled to finally make some kind of significant life change and face situations that demand transformation. So it can be about letting go of these outdated beliefs and relationships. And, you know, it could be career paths that no longer serve you, partnerships, old goals, like whatever. All you need to know is that 29 degrees is a critical point. Some astrologers see this as a point of crisis. And I think it's where the energy of the sign personally is the most intense. And it's really pushing for completion and having a significant shift. So Pluto being at 29 degrees is a deep transformative process that's at its peak. Now we have to complete it, right? We have to transform something. So something else to kind of like consider is that when planets are at 29 degrees, there's some astrologers consider this to be like void of course. So that means that it makes no major aspects before it changes signs. And in this case, I don't really think that's the case. Pluto is sextiling Neptune. So we are intuitively feeling into what needs to kind of change or what needs to shift, and maybe we're surrendering to that. That might be why so many people feel right now like, okay, I know this inevitably is going to end. Let's just get it over with, you know? And Pluto is also by sign, even though it's retrograde, so is Uranus, it's trining Uranus, you know, by about 3 degrees. So with endings comes sudden, surprising, new, fortuitous events, comes new sense of security, better self-esteem, maybe new jobs, more money, some kind of new life, some kind of growth, right? So Pluto says, we got to deal with this crisis. Neptune says, okay, let's let it go. Let's wash it away. Let's start over. And then Neptune is sextiling Uranus, and that's the physical, financial kind of impacts that it's having. If you guys caught my horoscopes that I put out for August, I talk a lot about the challenges of navigating the planets going through Virgo this month, and that you would see the sun, and you would also see Mercury oppose Saturn. And you would have to say to yourself in August, I got to step away from this thing. And then you would see down the road that there would be trines to Uranus where you're going to go, okay, this is how I'm going to make the change. This is going to be scary, but I'm going to take this risk. I'm going to make this change. And the way to get out of the oppositions from Saturn and Neptune was to lean into changes, and that those changes would bring powerful new opportunities for you. Job changes, changes in your sense of security, authority. Go watch that video, because that's how you're going to get out of these oppositions in August, where you're feeling sick, stretched, overworked, worried, and it's all about pivoting and making the necessary physical and financial changes so that way we can stay on top. Now, when we see Pluto at 29 degrees, it doesn't mean, hey, it hits 29 degrees and then all of a sudden there's like a storm, right? Not necessarily. Maybe when we see Venus square Pluto in August, maybe when you see the moon go through the late degrees of, Libra or Cancer or Aries, sure, that will trigger Pluto. Yes, we need to watch for that. But in a general sense, the next 2 months, yes, we're going to see crisis and transformation. So, personal crisis, collective crisis, definitely breakdowns before breakthroughs. A lot of this is connected to power dynamics. So we're in our own lives going to be confronted with issues revolving around power and control, and authority is going to come up. And this could be in personal relationships on a societal scale with leaders and institutions. Quite frankly, I think Saturn being the dispositor of Pluto was kind of saying, well, it's going to be exposing a lot of crime and corruption. And that crime and corruption is now potentially going to be revealed with Saturn retrograde. We're going to see, well, the crime and corruption is connected to Pisces things. Pharma, right, is Pisces. Hospitals is Pisces. Immigration and borders, because Saturn is there. Issues revolving around mental health epidemics, drug-related or mental health issues. It could be connecting to illnesses and separation in society or limitations, all of these fun Pisces things. And so as Virgo planets move through the sky and they oppose this, they will trine Pluto, which means we need specialists, we need healthcare, professionals, we need doctors, we need scientists, we need these people to be like, here's the hard facts, this is what we have found, and the impact that information is going to have in exposing this, and also connecting the dots and following the money. The trines to Uranus is the money. It also is very much connected to the food supply and what is going on with the food supply, and how there is this intrinsic relationship between Taurus and Capricorn, where, food is money, and, money can be food. And we're going to be looking at what's going on with subsidies, and, why we are feeding kids certain food, and why certain lobbyists are so directly tied to politics. And not only that, but it creates this train where then, also it sextiles Neptune and people are sick, right? So we're going to start seeing this stuff, guys. I'm actually, the more that I get into this year, the more that I am actually trying to be excited about 2025 and 2026. Is it going to be hard? Yeah, I think it is. But I also feel very strongly that unlike having all these water, kind of earth things where it's very slow and sluggish and it's taking forever to get it out, when we get Pluto in Aquarius, Uranus in Gemini, when we get Saturn and Neptune in Aries, it's going to be like, this is happening, this is what we're doing, right? This is what fell apart, this is how we're going to kind of fix it. And we're going to see a lot more masculine energy, not just taking it all in. We're going to see a lot more people being like, yeah, nope, we're going to make a change. So I'm trying to be optimistic about the changes that are coming. And I also feel like it's like we're completing something. Pluto leaving Capricorn is saying we're done with that. We're moving into this new kind of Aquarius energy, which is about free information. right? Transformations in the internet. We're moving into Aries energy, which is going to be about independence and taking action. We're moving more into Gemini energy, which we get a preview of this year, which is about, you know, communication and also considering different perspectives and the need for information to be free and for us to exchange in a new and global way. So there's a method to the madness. Things are feeling like they're kind of breaking down a little bit, but you know, with Pluto has always taught me, I have Pluto conjunct my sun and Mercury natally. Pluto has always taught me that and there's endings and there's beginnings. And so, you know, I've tried to kind of make peace with endings, and I've realized that when something ends, I'm like, okay, I have to get excited. Like when something really horrible happens, you know, a job ends, a relationship ends, somebody dies, I'm like, something good is coming. Like I almost feel bad doing it, but I'm like, there's space that's being made. So as you see this transit over the next 2 months, pay attention to the endings in your life, because relationships, job, personal projects, you know, they might conclude, but it's making way for new beginnings. And I think this is really kind of aligning with Aquarius's themes of innovation, community, freedom, right? That's what we're going to be kind of dealing with for the next 20 years. To best work with this period, embrace change the way that you can. Have routines, have habits, keep yourself on track so that way you're not falling back into, you know, maybe self-undoing with some of the oppositions in Pisces. Try to flow with the changes. This period really favors transformation, so engaging with it consciously can really lead to some profound personal growth. Reflect and release. So use this time for deep reflection. Pluto is sextile Neptune, so there is an opportunity to reflect on endings, completion, death, regeneration, you know, karma, all that fun stuff. And what structures in your life need to change and be released. And it can be physical or emotional. Plan for the future. Even though something is ending, that doesn't mean we can't plan for the future, because, you know, in the midst of these endings, we can be really focusing on envisioning the life that we want to build next. So the energy of Pluto at this degree can really help lay a strong foundation for future endeavors, especially when it comes to Capricorn things, long-term goals, career, reputation, you know, your plans for the future. And given the fact that Pluto will eventually move towards Aquarius, you know, you want to focus on how you can contribute or benefit community efforts. It's not just about recognition and, you know, who I am and what I'm doing. The future will look very different. You are not going to be judged by your career. You know, we all get into the habit of, we go to a party, we meet people, and we go, oh, who are you? What do you do for a living? You know, nope, we're not doing that anymore. Who are you friends with? What are you supporting, right? What group do you belong to? What networks do you support? Where do you donate your time or your services? We are going to be judged off of our networking capabilities, who we support, how we're contributing to like a greater cause out in the world. That's where we're going to get recognition. And I don't tell you that to get you to do that. I'm telling you that because this transit, you know, it might encourage you to take a different perspective. And when you look at your goals, and also, you know, creating more diversity maybe in your social contacts, because we're all going to need, you know, support with where we're going with these transits. Stay grounded. Intensity can be overwhelming. You know, if you got to meditate, you got to work out, you got to do whatever you got to do. Personally, you know, I have a ton of Capricorn placements in my chart. I have 4 planets in Capricorn, and when I get frustrated when I'm going through Capricorn transits, all I want to do is like hike upward incline. It's like funny. It's like such a goat thing to do because they go up the mountain. So it can mean that you challenge yourself in some way, or you decide that, you know, you're going to go for a hike, or you're going to kind of put the incline up a little bit higher on your treadmill, you know, while you're going through this, and focusing on your goals while you're kind of moving through that. And know that Aquarius is the top of the mountain, and we can look down on everything and go, oh, look what I accomplished. It's the party that we have on Friday night after we work all week. So good changes will emerge from the willingness to kind of get some of this stuff done. All right. Okay, so that was the week ahead. I do want to take you guys very quickly through the 12 rising signs and show you what this means now that Mercury has gone direct. So once again, we're going to see Mercury that's going to be going direct. When is that again? That looks like that's going to be, is it the 28th? No, I take that back. Yeah, the 28th. So Mercury will be direct on the 28th. So I want to give you guys some good news, because I feel like we could all use some good news. So once again, Mercury it started its retrograde in Virgo, but it's now going direct in Leo. So this is going to impact my Geminis, my Leos, and my Virgo risings the most. And maybe if you have some personal planets, late degrees of Leo and early degrees of Virgo, you as well. But yeah, that's who it's going to be impacting the most. But I think Mercury going direct for everybody is going to be great. To make the most of my predictions, I am a Western astrologer. That is what I practice. I'm going to be showing you the whole sign degree of Mercury going direct. It will be at 21 degrees. So if you use Placidus, you might have to figure out, well, which house is 21 degrees? Just look at the cusp and see if it's, more or less than 21, and you'll have to figure out which house that lands in. And remember, when Mercury goes direct, this is giving us a surge of confidence. This is about creativity. This is about more creative, fun kind of communication. So I think that it's going to be really positive, and I have some suggestions for what to do with this energy. All right, so for my Aries and my Aries risings, what's going on, guys? Mercury is going direct this week. It's going to be happening in your guys' natal 5th house. All right. So this is about creativity. It's about romance, children, hobbies, self-expression. So Mercury going direct here, I think that there is a sense of this energy really thriving because this is going to be about really being able to express yourself the best way you can. It's connected to your 3rd and also your 6th. So maybe you've made more time for creative stuff. I really feel like I would, when Mercury goes direct, really dive into creative projects, enjoy romantic escapades, spend time with your children in a playful, educational way, and you'll feel like your creativity and your charisma is at its peak. Maybe there's been some back and forth with your feelings on a romantic matter, but likely it's going to clear up right after it goes direct, okay? Good luck. We got Taurus and Taurus rising. You guys are experiencing Mercury going direct in your 4th house. And this is the house of home and family, your private life, property, real estate, roots, ancestry. So Mercury going direct here, it might be really setting the stage for, I think, better self-expression because it started in your 5th house and went into your 4th. I also feel like maybe there's been some reworking of something in the home. So, maybe you've been trying to move, or maybe you're renovating something. Maybe you went back home to visit family. Maybe you've been thinking about redecorating. Any of these things that's been reworked either in your physical home space or maybe even with your family, that's kind of like finally starting to get wrapped up. So the best way to utilize this energy is like now, if you want to sign a lease, you want to move, you want to redecorate, you can. Likely it's supposed to be like creating a space in your home that is going to reflect your personality a lot more vividly. That's how I see this. And also organizing family events where you can be the center of attention. So now you can kind of plan some of these get-togethers, gatherings, kind of reconnections, okay? And I think a lot of it's about spending when it comes to the home. Or what you're needing to kind of invest into your home. All right? Good luck, my Tauruses. We got Gemini and Gemini rising. You guys are going to experience Mercury, your chart ruler, going direct in your 3rd house. So good news for you, because obviously we need Mercury to come correct because it rules your chart. So it does rule how you communicate, how you move, how you think. And it's also connected to your home life. So it actually started in your 4th house and it went to your 3rd. 3rd house is communication, vehicles, siblings, neighbors, learning, gadgets. So I feel like definitely there's been a sense of like rethinking how you communicate and connect with people. And it can be relatives or it can be with people online. So your communication is going to become more engaging and persuasive now. And I think you're going to really want to utilize this week with Mercury going direct by engaging in public speaking, writing in any form, communicating when you can, and really like shining and standing out in some way. I also feel like this is ideal for learning new skills, especially that involve creativity or leadership. So if you're wanting to take a course, if you're wanting to, make some moves and learn something new, or if you're getting ready to kind of publish like a website, like now you can kind of move forward with some of that stuff a little bit more smoothly, okay? Good luck, my gems. We've got Cancer and Cancer rising. you have had Mercury retrograde in Leo. It started in Virgo in your 3rd house, and now it's in your 2nd house. And this is about your possessions, your money, your resources, okay? So some Cancer risings, you felt like, well, there's some tightness going on financially, or some reworking in how I communicate with people about money, or documents involving money. Maybe reevaluating if you're going to make a purchase with a car, if you're going to move. But the retrograde's in your 2nd, it's going direct, okay? And Mercury doesn't just rule your 3rd house of these things, it also rules your 12th of the subconscious. So Mercury going direct in the 2nd house. This is all about financial dealings that can take a much more theatrical, kind of bold approach. If there's been money that has been delayed, it can now come in. If there has been money that's gone out, now you can kind of recoup some of that, or have a better kind of handle on your spending habits or any stress or anxiety that you've had about money. This can also indicate that this is a week where you really, to better utilize this energy, you want to make bold financial moves. Just ensure that they're well thought out, okay? It's also a good time for investing in things that enhance your personal value or your aesthetic, because the 2nd house can be about our style. Now, this is squaring Uranus, so maybe there's been some tension about what are my financial goals, or miscommunications with groups of people about money that could be happening. But likely there's going to be some kind of like things clearing up in regards to your financial situation or your self-esteem that can kind of flow a little bit more smoothly now. All right. Good luck. We've got Leo and Leo rising. What's up, Leo? Did you cut your bangs? How many of you guys cut your hair? I'm curious. All right, so Mercury's been retrograde in your sign, and it's been in your 2nd and 1st house. So it went from your 2nd house into your 1st house, and now it's going direct. And Mercury is connecting to your 11th house of goals, friendships, socializing, other people, and personal resources and finances and self-esteem. So having Mercury go direct in your 1st house is more about your identity, how you communicate, how you look, what your goals are, how you're connecting with kind of your audience in some way. So you might feel more confident in expressing your personal style now and your identity as well. You know, really, I think with this time, it's about utilizing this in a way where you're focusing on your new personal brand. And I don't even mean in a professional way. It can be professional, but you're like, this is who I am now, you know, and kind of sticking with it. Maybe it means that you're starting new projects where you're the face of something. Maybe this is just putting yourself out there, being more confident, speaking up more, being more assertive about your needs and your desires, and sharing that with your friends, sharing that with people online, and your wisdom of really like knowing who you are. Now, Uranus, you know, there's been a couple squares to Uranus, so maybe this sense of who I am and who I am at work, there's been some conflict, right? Or wanting to break out of something, feeling like I'm not just what I do for work. I'm also this, you know, fashionista or like whatever as well. So that's still kind of getting worked out. So be mindful that's going to kind of hang around until September. But if you want to move forward and now you want to make changes with your appearance, your hair, your body, whatever, you're good to go if that's something that you want to do. And I feel like you'll probably feel a little less tongue-tied now as well. Good luck. We got Virgo and Virgo rising. Virgo, you are having Mercury, your chart ruler, go direct in Leo in your 12th house. Well, it started its retrograde in your 1st house, went into the 12th. I know a lot of Virgo risings have either been in hermit mode, they've been, you know, in deep reflection, they've been resting, or you guys have been recuperating from being overstimulated, overworked, or sick. So, you know, Mercury rules your body. 12th house is healing places, private spaces. And Mercury also deals with work. So it can mean that there has been a sense of, do I quit my job? Do I change jobs? Am I overworking? Do I not want to go back? You know, am I not feeling good enough to work? Some question marks revolving around the future of work. Probably all of those things have come up for you. If not, then it could have been about questioning whether or not you're going back to school, switching careers. That can kind of come up here too, because it was squaring Uranus in your 9th. Anyway, Mercury retrograde and then going direct in your 12th house is all about your subconscious and anything in regards to your solitude. Take heed of the dreams that you have, the symbolism that comes up in your dreams, because I feel like this has been about finding time for more solitude and kind of getting in touch with your inner world. And maybe you've been behind the scenes doing some creative work. Maybe that's what's changed, is that you're kind of getting back into a creative hobby. To best utilize Mercury now direct, it's all about, engaging in creative visualization, meditation, artistic expression. It doesn't necessarily need an audience to kind of feed your soul. And I think it's more about, creating for the sake of creating and feeling like you have something that you can enjoy and it brings you some kind of creative passion or pleasure, but it doesn't have to be shared with the world. So it could be painting, photography, writing music, something that just kind of calms you down a little bit, right? And it can mean that you've been working on something business related behind the scenes and you're getting ready to share this with the world, or you're changing jobs, you're retiring. That could be kind of coming up there as well. Likely when Mercury's back in Virgo, you'll see in September, you're gonna be feeling a little bit more like yourself. And right after that new moon, I feel like there's gonna be some really good shifts for you. And all of September is really emphasizing, who am I? What do I need? What am I working through? And how can I connect with other people and gain insight from counselors, therapists, partnerships, whatever, to grow as a person, right? And you're going to be realizing you're changing throughout some of these new eclipse cycles that are coming. So maybe you're kind of letting some phase of your life go. Good luck. All right, we got Libra and Libra rising. What's up, Libra? You've got Mercury going direct in your 11th house. Obviously, Mercury rules your subconscious, what you do behind the closed doors, and also your 9th house of your faith, philosophy, belief system, legality, teaching. And it's going direct from Virgo, where maybe you were feeling a little hermity. It went from Virgo into Leo, and now it's going direct in Leo. So this is in your 11th house of community and friends. So now with Mercury going direct, your social circle might expand in a much more dramatic or creative way. You might meet new people. You might socialize better. This can be about organizing or leading community projects or using social media to increase your visibility or your audience, coming back and bringing some kind of information, something you've been working on that you want to share or teach or publish with people. It can be bringing reconnections with groups and allies as well that can kind of really help you. As a Libra rising, it's been quite literal for me. It's been literally, coming back and taking time to work on, courses, taking time to work on the webinar and stuff that I was doing. And I was like, no, I need some more time to work on this. So it's been quite literal for me. But for some of you guys, it can mean also this reevaluation of your goals. And suddenly you're like, oh, now I know exactly what I want to do and where I've been isolating myself and where I need the support of other people to be able to do this. So it can be an opportunity for you to have a better idea of who you're trying to reach and who you're speaking to, right? All right, good luck, Libra. We got Scorpio and Scorpio rising. You guys are experiencing Mercury going direct in Leo in your 10th house of career and reputation. This is about your public image. Now, Mercury started its retrograde in your 11th of groups, networks, friends, and other people. And Mercury is not just tied to this, it's also tied to your 8th house of joint resources, transformation, change, psychological things. Obviously, if you got Scorpio placements, especially, anything from 29 to about 20 degrees, Mercury's been squaring that, sun, moon, and rising. So there's been a lot of okay, this feels challenging, or I'm dealing with deadlines, or, this is a lot of work. So, whenever Mercury goes retrograde, it's gonna bring a change for you. And it could be a change of resources, it could be a change of values, anything like that. So the way that I see this for you, Scorpio and Scorpio rising, is that this is going to be kind of finally moving forward with your professional stuff, with some of your career stuff, right? So when I look at your notes, I have that your career might be stepping into the spotlight in some way. You might be utilizing this time now with Mercury direct to really focus on career advancements where visibility and leadership are key. Some of you guys might have promotions. Now you're giving presentations. Now you're maybe changing your job or your status in some way. And it may be very significant. It may be very dramatic because Mercury's connection to your 8th house. And maybe you're sharing this with other people. You're sharing this news with your friends. Maybe you're starting a group. Maybe you're joining a group and you're collaborating with other people. If you change jobs, you went back to a job, maybe you decided that you want to change direction in, your career path. All of these things could have happened, and now it's going to become a little bit more visible. If there's been some difficulties, miscommunications at work, or if you've been feeling like you've been delayed in making progress, likely you're going to start to see that kind of break out. Keep in mind, Mercury will still square Uranus, so it can mean there's been some turbulence with clients or with romantic relationships revolving around the direction of your professional goals. A little bit of friction. Mercury has really been asking you to change the way that you look at the future of your either your life status, what you're known for, right, and or your career. And so there's still some navigating how that works in with relationships or with other people, but I think for the most part, you're going to see some really positive things that are going to be happening, especially with this up and coming eclipse in your 5th house. I think a lot of Scorpio and Scorpio risings that are either working or will be working on either new projects or maybe becoming parents, and that might be kind of impacting the direction with their career. Okay, so good luck, Scorpio and Scorpio rising. All right, we've got Sagittarius and Sagittarius risings. You guys are going to be experiencing Mercury turning direct in Leo. This will be happening in your 9th house, Sagittarius. This is a house of travel, philosophy, legality, teaching, and your beliefs. All right. So first of all, it's in a fellow sister air sign, fire sign. So it's going to be trining some of your placements, possibly if you're kind of like the later degrees of Sag. And the 9th house has associations with, higher education, going on trips, approaching life with more enthusiasm, a desire maybe to be more recognized. And this is a time where, now that Mercury is going direct, you can plan things. Mercury started its retrograde in your 10th house, where maybe you were reevaluating your career or your status or what direction you're going at your job. And you're like, you know what? I need to slow down. I need to travel, or maybe I need to go and talk to a counselor, or maybe I need to go back to school, or maybe I need to make more time to kind of focus on, what's going to make me happiest. And thankfully, like I said, it was trining some of your placements when this happened. Mercury rules your relationships as well. So maybe there was something changing about your romantic life. Maybe suddenly you have somebody who's supporting you. Maybe you met somebody at work. Maybe you took on a new business partner. Something's been shifting here. And so relationships were really supposed to be kind of like the vehicle for helping some of this growth or change evolve when it comes to your career or your status. So now I think this is about really utilizing the energy of Mercury direct. You can plan trips, you can be a leader, you can be a teacher, you can engage in philosophical discussions where you can shine. If you have been thinking about going back to school, now you may have a decision, or you may have kind of enrolled, or maybe you're kind of getting your answer revolving around either teaching or being taught something that is going to bring you closer to other people. Okay. Legal matters, if there's been delays, that can also start to kind of move forward now as well. Good luck, Sag. We've got Capricorn and Capricorn rising. Mercury has been retrograde. This has been taking place in Leo. It started in Virgo in your 9th house, and it dipped into your 8th house of Leo. And now Mercury will be going direct this week. So for you, my Capricorns, Mercury going direct in the 8th house of transformation, joint resources, karmic entanglement, psychological things, taxes, intimacy, all that fun stuff. So this is good because I feel like now you're going to be feeling more confident about talking about the things that scare you the most. This could be finances. This could be diving into, deep, profound psychological conversations, sorting out any tax issues, inheritance issues, sorting out any settlements maybe because of Mercury's connection to the 9th house of law, in the 6th house of any legal doings, or settlements actually come to the 6th house. That's why I say that. This could also be handling like a insurance matter, trying to get something covered through insurance. I could see that as well. Or if you've been negotiating taking a job, that could have been happening here. If your partner's been having some delays with money, if there's been some funding issues going on at work, if there has been some issues of like grief or psychological stuff that's been impacting your health, now with Mercury going direct, I think a lot of these things can clear up. Use this time now when Mercury is direct. It's a good time for joint financial ventures, exploring deeper psychological or spiritual transformations. It's a better time to be increasing credit, applying for loans, borrowing money. These things might move forward a little bit better, and you'll see that paying better attention to your psychological health is actually going to have really positive influence on your physical health habits and routines. Okay. And obviously, Pluto retrograde in your first house. If you're a Capricorn rising, your 6th house lord going retrograde in the 8th. It's like, some of you guys might have surgical procedures. Some of you guys might go to therapy, but I think really this is about being like, oh, my mental health impacts my physical health. And maybe that's the breakthrough and this realization that you guys have throughout this week. Okay, rooting for you guys. We've got Aquarius and Aquarius rising. You guys are going to be experiencing Mercury going direct in the sign of Leo in your opposite sign, the 7th house. Okay, so Mercury started its retrograde in your 8th, which was about moving through joint resources, intimacy, vulnerabilities, secrets even. And then it found its way into your 7th house. So it's been colorful to say the least, right? Mercury retrogrades in the 7th house. They do bring changes to our partnerships, our relationships, to marriage, to, in this case, relationship to younger people, could be children or romantic partners. So there's been this sense with, relationships that have been going through a process where you've been reworking or re-examining, how you communicate with them, what you love, what you need from them. Maybe you felt like people have been miscommunicating themselves. And I think now relationships, they may demand a little bit more attention. There could be better communication. Certainly there has been some drama because it's been in opposition to your sign, and it's been square Uranus, your modern day ruler. So there's been some friction going on revolving around family relationships, roommate relationships, kids and parents, partners and, extended family. There's a little bit of turbulence that's been there. But now I feel like to best utilize Mercury going direct, you want to use this time to express your needs more clearly in partnerships. And you can be more open about your feelings. You could be more direct and romantic and playful because of the connection to the 5th house. I think this is also really good for engaging in activities with your partner that allow for mutual creativity and recognition. So it's like somebody asks you something and you give them an answer. What do you think? Like learning how to kind of volley back and forth in the conversation. And a lot of this can be about thinking about, how you can create more fun time or how you can create a new hobby together. And maybe it's like trivia or something because of the connections to the 5th. Or maybe you're learning something new together and that can keep things kind of exciting. If you've been back and forth in a romantic situation, it means you might finally make a decision. You might hold on to one, let another one go. And definitely the conversation revolving around either hobbies, pastimes, or children seems to be a theme, and how you're navigating that in a relationship. Okay? Good luck, my Aquariuses. And then finally, we've got Pisces and Pisces rising. What's going on, guys? I have got Mercury going direct in the sign of Leo. Obviously, you guys know it started its retrograde in your 7th house of relationships and dropped into the 6th house. Now, the 6th house is your office space, your pets, work, your health, your to-do list, basically. So Mercury going retrograde, connecting the 7th house of partners and the 4th house of family in the 6th. There can be this feeling of like having to air out your grievances with your family or with your relationships. Correcting things, your health, your habits, your routine. Maybe it's about fixing things in the home. Maybe it's about adjusting your schedule so you feel like you have more time for playtime. But now with Mercury going direct, your approach to work might be more creative. Like there might be a sense of you participating in work that you really enjoy, or finding ways to love what you're doing. This is all about improving your work environment and boosting productivity and taking on like a leadership role when it comes to health or service with other people. I would be very focused on how you can inspire other people with some of the work that you're doing. It could be that you're painting the walls, at home, or you're designing things at work, and just creating more opportunity to kind of perfect a space or perfect something that you have to offer other people when Mercury is going into your 7th house later in this next month. Keep in mind also that this is very health related. So if you've been having some health issues while Mercury is retrograde, it can go direct and you might see that actually you're overcoming it. Maybe you get some kind of news or information about some of your health related issues and you're able to get clarity and then kind of, tackle some of those issues with your healthcare providers, right? All right. So I hope that's helpful for you guys. Please enjoy this week because like I said, this is a nice slice where we get some good astrology and we're not feeling like we're kind of dodging planets in the sky. But let me know, how are you feeling with these energies? Are you excited for the eclipses? How are you feeling coming out of August? What did you guys experience? And yeah, I would love to hear from you guys. So any interaction with the channel is helpful. Leave me your comments below or give me a thumbs up and consider sharing this video with other people. If you do that, it helps my channel grow and it helps me reach my goal of 50,000 subscribers this year. Click the bell button below if you want more videos like this from me. I would love to help you with your journey of understanding astrology, putting it all together and seeing the bigger picture to help kind of understand other people, but also navigate our own lives. Now, I do personal readings with clients one-on-one on Zoom. I also teach astrology. So if you want to learn astrology with me or you want to see more about my practice or my services, click the bell button below. That will take you to my website at beyondtheveiltarot.com. You can check everything out there. My schedule is live. You can see my courses. They are study at your own pace and many, many hours of lecture. And I can teach you how to read astrology the way that I do. Catch me here on Fridays. I do live readings. This week, we're going to be doing astrology readings. We are doing readings just in time for this up and coming new moon. So if you want some insight on how to navigate the new moon in Virgo, I'm your girl. You can catch me here at 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern this Friday and most every Friday. So consider joining my memberships if you want to support me and if you want to get a reading once a month. It's a great way to stay in touch and guarantee that you're going to get some insight in how to navigate these challenging times at times, but nevertheless, we just keep on going. So enjoy the rest of your Sunday. I will catch you guys all back here next time. Take care.